Boys and girls, I do not know what the hell I am in for this evening. It is a fine Tuesday, but we are jumping right into the pit because this is starting to pop with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Moshpit. What's up, my man? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Don. It's awesome to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
You know, I see a lot of fine talent in our area. I'm from Connecticut. Let's just start right there. I'm from Connecticut. Where are you from, my man?
Originally, I am from Coventry, Rhode Island.
Ooh. Now, I've seen you at the XWA. That's how my eyes caught on to one mosh pit, and I know a lot of the faces up at XWA. I even know the higher ups over at XWA. Couple of great guys over there. One Mike Antonucci and Jose Perez. Uh, and I don't know if you know the history of one Mr. Perez, but he does this flaming chop thing that will fuck you right up, my man.
I have heard some stories around the locker room about that. Mr.
Yeah,
Perez's chops are something of a legend in the locker room talks.
yeah. Don't piss him off. That's all I'm saying.
I've I think him and I have actually butted heads a couple of times, but in a friendly way, and
Yes.
can confirm he's not to be messed with.
Yeah. Don't trifle with Mr. Perez. And if it gets too far and you cross that line, a flaming chop is about to come your way. And that shit is no good, boy. I'll tell you that. And I know we're supposed to be here learning about Mosh Pit, but I want to tell you a quick story right now. I saw Mr. Perez in ring and Two Buff, and I know you're familiar with Two Buff.
Very much
Two
so.
Buff, Two Buff happened to be his victim on the other side. Now it wasn't a flaming chop, but it was multiple chops from one Mr. Jose Perez. It might as well have been five flaming chops with as many chops that Mr. Perez gave this kid. His chest was literally beaming. It had an
Oh,
aura of purple just coming right off. Me, myself, I loved every second of it. I don't think Mr. Two Buff enjoyed that, but what a hell of a time up at XWA.
oh, speaks to my soul. As somebody who gets chopped frequently and has a rosy red chest on a very regular basis, and as somebody who shares a disdain for two buff, that
Oh,
story makes me happy.
oh, we are going to get along just fine, my friend. I love that statement. That might even be, I name every episode differently. You know, you want to have its uniqueness to each episode. I think I just might name it, we have a disdain for two, a mutual disdain for two buff. I
I
love
love it. That's
that.
awesome.
Oh boy, is he gonna be pissed? That's gonna be
Good.
awesome. Uh, well, if you haven't realized yet, Mr. Mosh Pit, I love to have fun. That's what we do at wrestling. I go to the shows. I do a little footage. I clip some stuff. I even put some full matches on my old YouTube channel if promotions will allow so. I share some pictures and I network with the talent, and we just have tons of fun, my man. And we haven't been able to meet, so I had to get you on the show. So I gotta ask you a question, and I know we did speak real quick off air. You're a newer talent on the scene. Is this interview thing or podcast or anything like that? Is this something that you've done yet, or are we're looking to do? Did I just kind of jump at you and be like, "Hey, man, what's good?"
Actually, funny enough, this is my first interview as a professional wrestler.
Yes.
You were the first person to ask me, and not for nothing, you had been following my Facebook page, and we just kind of linked up online, and you sent me a message, and I was like, absolutely, I was totally flattered by it. So here we
Yes.
are, man.
I love firsts. I think it's something you could look back on in the history of your career. Your first match, your first promo, your first everything, and interviews. I feel is kind of part of that career thing because when you look back at stuff, you're like, man, the way I talked, the way I looked, what the hell was I thinking? Or you'd be like, man, that was a fire start that because not all careers start with a decent gimmick, a decent look, decent gear, and all of that stuff.
I agree. There's a lot of development and molding of yourself that kind of goes into it. And to be honest with you, I don't know what to expect out of myself for this discussion because like what we have so much that we could be talking about, like even down to your T-shirt. Okay, I know Stevie Legend. Him and I have shared the ring a couple of times together.
Shaky relationship, I would imagine.
You could say it's been off to a rocky start, similar to my relationship with Tupac.
uh, it's funny you mentioned both of those talents because I go to Shut Up and Wrestle over at Kevin Landry's Combine in Holyoke, Mass. They do a free show once a month, and it's so much bleeping fun, my man. So much fun over there. But some of the Rhode Island talent has kind of splashed over into Shut Up and Wrestle. And Two Buff and the Buff Dad, collectively known as Buff Inc., they have come over. They have been invited to Shut Up and Wrestle. And not only that, Stevie Legend has joined the fray. And he was like Stevie Buff, if you will. And he's been a jackass and a pain in our asses over at Landry. So I do wear this, not very willingly. There was kind of an order thrown at me from the last Shut Up and Wrestle. So I figured I'd oblige Mr. Stevie Legend, and here we are.
Oh, that's disappointing. I kind of had high hopes for the kid. It sounds like what you guys have though is a roach problem.
Oh, I didn't say it, Mr. Legend. Mr. Pitt did, if you will.
I got all of that, bro.
We will talk more about different talents, I'm sure, within this conversation because XWA is a fine promotion, and I know they are right now in the middle of an evolution, my friend. So we're going to talk about that down the road. But right now, right here, let's get to know one Mr. Moshpit because I don't write anything down. I don't research anything. I have seen your pics and stuff because I do stalk your I follow your social medias, and that's stalk word. I try not to throw it out there, but I do follow your stuff. So I've only seen from a distance, not live at the events. Love your look, love the name. I've never fucking once heard anybody be called Moshpit, and if they have, didn't catch it. Love the name, love the look, all of that. So you attracted me as a fan, again, from a distance. I've never seen you perform live yet. So kind of let's jump right into there. XWA, is that your home base right now?
It sure is. Actually, I'm very proud to say that I'm the last prince of the kingdom.
Ooh.
I am a student of Matt Taven and the Righteous Vincent. And I was one of the last people to be trained by them to be a graduate of the kingdom before they left to pursue, obviously their huge careers in wrestling.
They were there. You had Mr. Mike Bennett at the helm for quite some time.
Sure did.
He went on to the dub and then did his thing with Maria. So you had Matt Taven, Vinny Marsalia, TKO Ryan. Collectively, they were the kingdom. Okay. Then TKO. I don't know what's up with Mr. TKO. Miss him dearly. I so miss him dearly as a performer. So now he's kind of gone to the wayside. I don't know what's up with him. That leaves Mr. Taven and Vincent. Now, those guys and all four of those guys have been creating some fine talent out of the Kingdom facility over there. Speak to us as fans. Speak to us to the fans because we're not athletes. We're not becoming wrestlers. What kind of environment is it up there in the learning tutelage of one Matt Taven and Vinny? Because that's got to almost be intimidating, but just so kick-ass at the same time.
That's honestly probably how I would choose to describe it. It's intense. Like I'll start that way because when you always get this like sense of purpose and like motivation when you're in the ring with somebody that like knows what they're doing, that knows wrestling, that you can be across the ring from and you can have a fight with and Matt Taven is one of those people that has an amazing mind for pro wrestling, and to watch him kind of take you through things that he was taught, things that he's picked up through, wrestling in Mexico, things from learning from Spike Dudley and H2O Ryan Waters, and like to have that the fundamentals drilled into you like so like passionately, really is awesome. It's a great environment to be in, and it'll thin people out for who really wants to be there, and who maybe this is just a hobby for. And obviously, I have nothing against people who wrestle for a hobby. Like, that's cool. Just be honest with yourself about what your purpose is and stuff, and I think that's important.
I find that very well put. You need to know yourself, because diving into wrestling, and I know I've said the same exact statement almost every single episode of Stir to Pop, but I don't care. I'm going to say it again. One of the hardest things in the universe, as a fan, through my eyes, I feel becoming a singles wrestler is probably one of the hardest things to do in the universe. You have to be the athlete. You have to have a good mind. You have to be a marketing. You have to be your own salesman. You have to be that guy that brands yourself all the time, shoving your brand in our face, because without that, there's nobody behind you. There's no right-hand man that's doing this for you, if you will. So everything that it takes, and there's many more pieces. I've just listed only a few of them.
Oh, yeah.
All of those pieces that it takes to become a wrestler. I find it's just such a hard endeavor to become a professional wrestler, and to know yourself and say, I want to become a professional wrestler. And when that class starts out, it could be 10, it could be 15, it could be 20. There could only be one guy or girl left. There could be maybe one guy, two guys or two girls left out of that class that went and started. And I've seen it multiple times in multiple promotions that breed students, if you will, that mold students. And I find that very well put. Know yourself if you're going to become a wrestler, because you just don't freaking know. And I don't know. But I see everything from a distance as a fan. You just don't know how flippin' hard it is to become a wrestler until you really dive into it. And then you find out, holy shit, this is really hard.
It gets deep. As soon as you think that you have something figured out, there's another layer, and another layer. And I'll be the first person to say, like, I'm only a couple years in. I'm green. I'm verde, but I think that that's okay. It's okay to be new. It's okay to acknowledge that there's still more out there to learn. You always keep yourself humble and open to that, and you can always grow. You never box yourself in. I think once you start to see that it keeps going as far as you want to go, there's always another level. There's always another Russian doll inside that Russian doll that you can open up and just, there's another nugget of awesome wrestling knowledge that just it'll grow like a seed and become something else. That's one of the reasons I love wrestling so much, is because it's hard.
I almost want to revert and call the episode a different thing because of the Russian doll adage, but that two buff title is definitely sticking.
Yeah. It's going to be hard to top
that. We've only been running about 13 minutes or so, and I absolutely love your attitude, sir. I think it's a very fine attitude to have. There's always, you're never going to stop learning wrestling. I mean, that's something that's always been kind of talked to me about in conversation when I speak to the talent. Wrestling, it's a never-ending learning tree. You can never. All the veterans that are still out there, right now, actively, maybe they've been in the business 20 years. Maybe they've been in the business 30 years. And I know some of these guys do seminars. We've seen them on TV and such. But there's a smidge that they see. They're like, I never seen that before. So wrestling is always a continual learning tree.
I 100% agree with you. And as somebody who is new, so much of my learning comes from wrestling other people, like somebody who's done it a little bit longer, or being able to have training sessions with people who have been in the ring, 5-6 years, and can, be in there and impart their knowledge onto you. And you just add that into your repertoire, and you find those things that are really you.
I've always found that wrestling there's many things that are very unique within wrestling. But one of the things that I've always kind of pulled the Jenga piece out, if you will. Say I want to become, I don't know, a javelin thrower. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not like I can go find 5, 6, 10, 12 guys that are all javelin throwers and we're all teaching each other how to become an Olympic javelin thrower, if you will. Okay. But in wrestling, you have this very unique learning aspect of it where the knowledge continually gets passed on always. If you're at XWA, if you're at Touch of Strength, if you're at PAPW, if you're at Battlefront, if you're at, all of these companies that are around, Kevin Landry's Combine, and I'm just talking about the immediate local ones that come off the top of my head. Like you just said, I'm in the ring with, it may be a guy who's been in the ring for 3 years. He just showed me something that I never learned, but he just passed that knowledge on to me. A guy who's been in 5 years, 10 years, and etc. But within a sport, we'll go back to javelin, it's not like that. It's not like that, in many sports. I feel wrestling is very unique in that learning portion of the program. Can you agree with that?
I do actually, because in a lot of ways it's like a trade. You have people that almost sponsor your upbringing. So like when you go and you start to train, obviously they screen you and they say, okay, are you somebody that could potentially do this? And somebody will be like, all right, well, am I going to invest my time and my name to your career? Now, I know like a lot of people will be like, okay, well, I'm trained by so-and-so. And like I mentioned, I was trained by Matt Taven and Vince. And like they offer me the opportunity to name drop like I did, and put that on my social media because they've invested themselves in me. That's like a journeyman, program. That's learning something and like acknowledging where you are, like we were talking about before, and then building yourself up, along the way with the help of other people.
Absolutely. Very well put. Now, XWA, obviously, that's where you started training with Taven and Vincent, correct?
Yes.
Now, I mentioned they've produced some fine stars, and I'm just going to go through a very short list right now, and some that are TV ready, and some that are just on the cusp, my man. They're just on the cusp, and some that are still very young in their career that are maybe just found themselves a little bit more than they did maybe last year pre-pandemic. We're talking Mike Sumo, the American Sumo, Mike Gamble. Love Mike Sumo.
Just to say, me and Mike Sumo have a very, very intense match coming up at Northeast Wrestling here in 2 weeks, and I have to put that match over mainly because I wholeheartedly agree with you. Sumo has been there during my training and just like, past the ropes. Mike Sumo is like an amazing wrestler, an extremely decent person, and has been one of those people that has invested his time in my wrestling career, and I appreciate him for that.
That match is going to be fire, as the kids say. And Northeast Wrestling, they have so much talent over there. And not only that, but they bring in the huge, big, gigantic, as XWA does, these huge, big names on top of the local talent that comes through the promotions. I'll definitely be looking forward to that match. But to touch on Mr. Sumo, the heart on that guy is just something to behold. What a kind human the American Sumo is. I can't say enough good about that guy.
Same. I could echo that for days, my man.
And then we go into, there's guys like Nick Delta. There's guys like John Steele. There's guys like Dexter Liu. Boo! Dexter Liu. And there's boo! And then there's guys like very young in their career again, but hot, my man. And I think you know where I'm going with this. I don't know if you do or not. Is Waves and Curls. These two guys are just simply on fire right out of the box. The personality, the charisma, they grab the fans and they suck you right in. Those guys have got nothing but star power.
You just can't help it. And if you give me a chance to put Trayvon and Jalen over, I'm always going to. Me and Trayvon started training the same exact day.
Oh, really?
Yes, we did.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
we did. So he's got just a little bit of a head start getting out there into the wrestling world. I had a ACL injury that took me out for a little while, but I'm so proud of those guys. Like seeing them on AEW, knowing that they've been working so hard, seeing what they do behind the scenes, and then seeing that translate to them being on TV. They deserve every bit of that.
And it's the time frame, though, from when I first saw them hit the scene. I mean, I knew of them pre-debut. Yes, very, very short. I heard of them, the buzz of, before they really kind of came out and were waves and curls. But what a short time these guys have, no pun intended. What kind of pun intended? They've made so many waves in such a short time.
You have to take the pun. Take advantage of the pun while you can. Always. But yeah, they've. I don't want to say that they're burning bright. They've just got a ton of traction right now. You know, like there was a very slow burn for them while they were putting in those hours. They were putting in the time in the gym, in the ring. You know, and then, boom, all that work started paying off for them.
And I know we kind of got off topic of Mr. Moshpit, but I wanted to throw these names out here and get some, association with it because that's the class. That's XWA, and they really got. And I mean, there's others, and I'm just not remembering off the top of my head because I'm not that bright. We know that. But I mean, you guys and girls that are doing your thing up there and stuff, just love seeing what's coming out of the XWA Center over there. Just absolutely amazing. And I applaud you. Again, you're a young talent. You look good. You looking good in the ring. You have you don't look like a guy who's just trying to a hobby wrestler. You look like you are all in. And I appreciate that about you as a wrestler because, again, that's what caught my eye. These are easy. Fans are very easy. We just need a little bit of visual. And when you look good, that's half the battle, my man, for real.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I mean, I do take a little bit of time into putting my image into perspective, at least for social media, because like you said, it's so important. What people see is like a huge part of building a good first impression. And like, I come from being in metal bands. I come from, existing in the nightlife scene. And there's nothing more important than being borderline shameless about your self-promotion and like just finding new and cool creative ways of putting yourself out there.
Hi, I do that on the freaking reg. Are you kidding me?
I respect the hustle.
I will shamelessly. My daughter, and she hates when I speak about her on the interviews. My daughter, I am so like, hey, what's up? I will be in the line eating, waiting to get a fucking ice cream, and I will just say what's up to random people. I don't give a crap. My daughter hates that about me. I think my father does. He goes to all the shows with me, but he hates it, but he kind of enjoys it because that's how we gain these networks, the friendships, the relationships that I've built over the past 4 or 5 years here with the local talent, which I am so honored and privileged to ever have in my life. I am, my mind, which is only one brain cell, my mind is so fucking altered. And I know I've dropped a few F-bombs, but I just have to emphasize that is so altered by the respect, I guess is a great word to use, the friendships, the time that the talent has given me over the course, may it be at a show, may it be interviews. I'm just so blown away by all of that. And this is why when I see new talent, I'm like, man, I got to talk to this guy or I got to talk to this girl because I don't know them yet. And I want to know as much talent as I possibly can. So reaching out to you is just like a bonus for me. When you said yes, and I shit you not, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. It's just like having a big star react to me and being like, I am down, without charging me $500 to want to talk to them, if you will.
Well, to me, that's like the coolest part of wrestling, though. Is like, and I've been able to live like a couple of cool journeys in my life, and one thing that I've figured out is that when you're around a truly awesome community of people that are all there for the same reason, there's this awesome energy where people just like, well, you can just talk to people, and you'll find something that you either love about each other or love to hate about each other. It's the best thing about wrestling, because you could be like, I hate what you love, but like it's cool that we can sit here and talk about
it. And it's always, and it's never heated. That's the thing. And I'll speak about a status that I've shared probably 3-4 years ago. And it goes something about all races, religions, creeds, black, white, purple, green, tall, short, fat, skinny, gay, trans, whatever your lifestyle is, whatever your life choices are. When we all go to wrestling, it just seems that type of, and I know sporting events does the same thing, but I've seen some nasty, nasty shit come out of football, baseball, basketball games and stuff. Wrestling? No. We go there, we have fun, we escape from the bullshit. And I mean, yes, there's always an asshole or whatever. That's just life, and things happen, and you might get a little heated verbally. But I mean, all in all, Mr. Moshpit, in wrestling, that's probably the least environment I've run in, the environment that I've run into the least amount of an asshole or a jerk,
I kind of agree with you, and this is one of the reasons that I'm so happy that I landed in wrestling, because like I said, I've had a journey of like getting to this point in my life, and I didn't see myself ending up here, but I'm like so glad that I am. It's just like one of those happy accidents, because I've been a wrestling fan like my entire life. I used to like only be able to watch wrestling when I was at my mom's house on the weekend, because she was the only one that actually let me watch, the pay-per-views and stuff like that. Or she would film SmackDown for me or something like that, and I'd watch it on VHS when I came over. But like, yeah, I those are the people that I gravitate towards. The people that will come up and just say, hey, I'm Andy, I'm Moshpit, I'm Don, like let's talk about wrestling, because I know there's something that we can have a conversation about.
Absolutely. And that's a thing at the shows too, because there's so many different people that go, and then some, you see the recurring fans, which is always an absolute plus, seeing familiar faces and then seeing new ones on top of that. I just love all of that. You as a performer, I'm sure you get very stoked when you're seeing some of the familiar guys and girls that cheer for you and booed for the, the bad guys and all of that stuff. But then seeing new faces on top of that, it's just like, you spoke of the metal scene. I'm a guitar player. I've been through that whole bit, and it's very similar. I speak of wrestling and music is very similar. Seeing our familiar fans, family, and friends, that's cool.
There's a bunch of crossover.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you see the new faces, you're like, wow, we just grabbed a couple more tonight. They're asking for our card. They're asking for our next gig and stuff like that,
That's cool too. Like last week, my mom, bless her, was like, oh, I'm gonna try to come down and see you wrestle on Thursday. And at that point, I think it was like 2 matches up, and she missed me just by like a few minutes, but she still wanted to like stay and watch. So like, we stood in the doorway and we watched a tag match. I think it was a 3-way tag match featuring Waves and Curls was one of them. That was for sure. She really liked them. But there were a bunch of kids that, like, one of the kids I knew that was familiar with me that I say hi to every week. But then because it was in the middle of a show, there were like 5 more kids that all came up and wanted to know who I was. And I was like, this is so cool. This is the best part. My mom had her phone out and she was filming the whole thing and texted my dad like, oh my God, this is adorable.
Isn't it? And I'm so glad you just shared that with us, because in all honesty, let's be like really, truly honest here. When it comes to performing in the ring, that's why everything, all the sacrifices, all the passion, everything that you are gearing up to is to get in that ring and perform for your allotted 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 15, sometimes 20 minutes or even longer in that ring, okay? Now you get out of the ring. That's only like 1 to 10% of everything that you've built up for to get into that match, because everything that surrounds it, the people coming up to you, the social media stuff, connecting with the see, I'm getting goosebumps right now when I talk about this shit. There's so much more that surrounds said matches. And I feel that's a very small percentage. The matches themselves, yes, they mean so much in your career. They have to, because that's where you're performing live in front of the crowd. But surrounding outside of the ring, there is so much that, like we were talking, the pieces of the puzzle are just, there's so many pieces of those puzzle that are outside of the ring.
It really is. And I'm starting to see these small little pieces, you know, just like in that situation. That was very recent. It was like last week, I think. And those are the awesome things. Those are the things that drive me to be at training, you know, 2-3 nights a week, spending a couple hours in the ring, you know, taking the bumps, like going through and getting those reps in. That's what makes it worth it, you know? Like, what's the point of chasing something if, like, it's easy to get? You know, like, what would be the point of having something if it's easy, if anybody could have it, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm going to a concert, I don't want GA, I don't want general admission, I don't want floor seats, I want backstage, I want pit passes, you know? Like, I want a victory over the American Sumo Mike Gamble. That's what I want. And I don't want it because it's easy. I want it because it's hard, because it might be the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I ever do. That's what makes it worth it. Because at the end, the kids will be there wondering who wants it more.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny, we just speak of it's not that easy and Mike Sumo all in the same sentence, because you do know that little motto he's got going on. It's just that easy.
I may or may not have thought about that as I was saying it. Because one thing is for sure, is that if he does beat me on the 27th at NEW Resurgence, it won't be easy. I promise you it will not be easy. It will be the fight of your life. Sorry, little shoot promo. I love you, Sumo, but like,
hey,
remember no. Just remember who you're getting in the ring with, okay? Remember who you're getting in the ring with. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
You can't promo on my man, and then disclaimer it a little bit. You gotta stick to your guns.
I feel bad. I shot that on you.
No. No, you stick to your guns. You stay in the pit.
That's right. Welcome to the pit, Sumo.
Yes, that's what we're talking about, baby. Oh, man. Now, we've talked metal, and obviously your name is Moshpit. Please talk to us, the fans. How did Moshpit come about for the name? Because you could have thought of probably a million different things before Moshpit came about. Why Moshpit, and what's the association?
Okay, interesting, because I've actually had to think about this a little bit. The name kind of just came to me at one point. I was like, that sounds like a cool name. If I were as a fan and I heard somebody say, oh, and coming to the ring is Moshpit, I'd be like, who is that guy? I want to know everything about this dude. But like, as time has like gone on and as I've learned more about myself, like, it's so many different things. Like, yes, I love metal. That's part of it. But like, also, I bruise easy, and I come out of like every single fight looking like I got mangled. You know, like I've got marks. I got my chest beat up by Wrecking Ball over the weekend. But like,
oh my god,
yeah, I have fair skin, so like it always looks like I just came out of a mosh pit. And then my normal lifestyle, just on day to day between making music and my shoot job. I work at Encore Casino in Boston. I work at the at the nightclub in there. I'm a concert lighting designer. So like I'm always on the move. It's always busy. It's always chaotic. So, my life is a literal mosh pit. It's like multifaceted. It is who I am. I live the gimmick, man.
And there's no way that anyone could take that away from you with everything you just described. Mosh pit is absolutely perfect. Perfect.
Oh, now you're flattering me, making me a bearded man blush.
I mean, for real though, the chaos and everything that you have, this whole tornado of a life, but it's a good tornado. And that's now, boys and girls, I don't know if you've ever seen a mosh pit, but if you've ever seen one form from a distance, it's a black freaking tornado. Like legit, it's a black tornado.
It's a beautiful, beautiful sight of just a swarm of thousands of individual people just all of a sudden becoming one hive mind and just twisting itself into an open circle. The only thing better than that is a wall of death.
Yeah, oh my God. I'm not even going to go there. And don't be changing your name to Wall of Death, okay?
All right. Just until I figure out how to turn that into a finisher.
Oh, now that's money. Now that's a great name for a finisher. That is money. And not my first mosh pit, but I'm going to tell you a really quick story. 1996, Giant Stadium. It was the first tour, if I'm not mistaken, of Ozfest ever. And Ozfest used to be the main act, obviously, is going to be Black Sabbath. But before that, Ozzy would do a solo set, okay? So he would do 2 sets, one with himself, one with Black Sabbath, all right? But in between each main band, they had these smaller bands on a different stage, okay?
Yeah.
Dude, I am literally on the opposite end of the field from where the stage is. I bought my tickets 2 days before. I rephrase that. My buddy at work won 2 tickets for us. I drove, and he paid for a little something so we could take a little road trip. But we went to Giant Stadium 1996, and from my vantage point, I've never seen such a beautiful, chaotic, just disaster. In my entire life, whenever Pantera came out on stage, now the crowd has been a menace throughout the day, okay? We're talking like Typo Negative and Marilyn Manson has come out and there's been many others, but Pantera comes out on stage, my man, and this place, and I mean, it was like watching a flippin' cartoon of some kind. There were people jumping from the second mezzanine all the way down to the ground, and there's a fence, a chain link fence. Not everybody made that chain link fence, let me tell you. They got hung up pretty damn good. There were bodies, legit. It was like Nam. There were bodies being taken off of the field, off of the fighting grounds, if you will. But there was these little circles. And from my vantage point, it was just like the floor. There was these 4 holes out of nowhere in the middle of the floor. And I know I'm yammering about 1996 Ozfest, but your description of mosh pit, that's what I saw in my head as a memory.
It's a beautiful disaster, and it's something that, like, if you've ever seen a video of a mosh pit, like, oh, check out this crazy mosh pit from a concert, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like a perfect analogy for the duality of life, It's beautiful and crazy and chaotic and all of these opposing ideas all at the same time. You can be all of these things.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback on that, I'm built like a candle. You're not going to see me in a mosh pit. I'm built like a candle. I'm built like a kendo stick. I'm built like many things that are very skinny. So myself, I try to stay away from the mosh pit because I could break very easily. I'm just saying.
You know what? To each their own, and that's why there's most of us who are decent, we don't like crowd killers. Crowd killers are douchebags, and you blurt that out or whatever. No crowd killing. If somebody falls in the pit, you help them up. That's the rule.
Yes. Lift up your brother.
Exactly. You don't trample people. That's how people get hurt. We're all out there to have fun. And again, that's another beautiful duality thing. Like, we're all there to mosh. We're all there to, to throw elbows and like catch a few elbows, but to feel alive, not make each other dead.
Thank you for that PSA. Not to make each other dead. Beautiful. Lift your brother up so we don't make each other. That almost might be the title. No, Too Buff is the title.
There's so much quotable material here.
So you've been a wrestler for a couple years. Actively, how long have you been like getting matches under your belt?
Actively, okay, so I did a bit of masked wrestling before I got hurt, so I was getting some reps in, but that way I wasn't like doing any damage to myself if I was taking losses and things like that, just so I could get some real experience. And then that was before I had my knee injury. But so since I've been back, it's probably been about 3-4 months of like solid work.
How's the knee?
Knee's doing great, man. Knee is doing great. I had a really good team behind me. My doctors were phenomenal. I was a little bummed out because I only got like a month and a half to 2 months of actual like PT time because the pandemic happened and they switched all like non-essential medical services over to like being in the hospitals and stuff like that. So again, my physical therapist was really great. She stayed in contact with me the whole time and was updating me week to week on what my goals should be and like what I should be doing to make sure that my knee is getting back to where it should be. And thankfully now I'm rolling around without a brace for the most part. I mean, on shows I'm pretty careful. I'll throw a brace on just to make sure, but other than that, it's doing awesome.
A two-part question. Do you feel that you have to work a little bit differently post-injury to get a different feel if the knee is not exactly the same? And was it from a wrestling injury how this occurred?
Yeah. So it was a wrestling injury. I'll get into that in a second. So I don't feel that I have to try to work differently so much as that I try to work smarter. Because I was injured doing something very, very basic, and it was during training at that.
Okay.
So it was one of those eye-opening experiences. Like, okay, first and foremost, am I really taking my personal health and fitness as seriously as I think I am? Am I really holding myself accountable in that way and like putting in that extra effort in the gym to make sure that I'm prepared to be in the ring? Number one. And number two, am I recovering properly? Am I eating right? Am I taking the time to let my muscles rest? All of these things like kind of came into play, and like there's a little bit of psychological holdback of like it took me a while to do leapfrogs because like I injured it doing a leapfrog. So it took me a while to work my way back up into my confidence with that. But once I had a good friend with me during training, and while we're putting people over, because like I feel that this is what people don't talk about so much, is John Roy.
Such a fantastic human, Mr. Roy.
He is, and very much in so many ways. Everybody calls him a workhorse and everything like that, but he was in the ring with me the first time I did a leapfrog again after my injury, and he took a couple of reps with me and made sure that I was comfortable doing it. And I gotta put over the dude's ring work because like so many people don't see it. He puts in the hours too. He's one of those people that he might be on commentary, he might be running a camera, he might be doing about a million different things, but he is a wrestler too, and he's really good.
Now, whoever thought you'd be afraid of something called a leapfrog?
Right? It doesn't sound. It sounds like, oh, well, aren't you guys just jumping?
Yes.
But like the mat is awkward to land on, number one. Because there is that layer of foam. But the other thing, if you're jumping over somebody who's 6 foot tall, and you're getting about 5 foot of air underneath you, it's still a little tricky.
Yes, total different element when you add that to the game. But it's still mind over matter because this is what created the injury. Like, shit. Your mind is saying, don't do this.
It is. And I was throwing, instead of doing leapfrogs, I was throwing lines, and lines just sometimes aren't really that effective, number one. And number two, I have a good jump. I can clear myself out of the way if somebody's running at me. And there's no reason I shouldn't be doing that. So You know, I had to get my,
Uh,
I had to break through that mental barrier and be like, all right,
yep,
I know
absolutely.
that if I don't crack this now, it's going to hinder me later. So we did.
And, and we speak of on the show the physical part. Obviously, you need that, but this part up here, my man, without that, if you're lost in the sauce out somewhere else and you're just like swirling upstairs and not being all one with that whole package, wrestling is just going to be such a hard venture for you.
It is very much so. Like it's being able to manage all of that chaos and
Mm-hmm.
seeing where, like, this has been my biggest challenge is me, you know, because I don't have like I have to rely on myself to make sure that I'm doing my training, you know, when I'm not in the ring, to make sure that I'm hitting the gym hard and not just like hitting the gym hard, but really, really knowing where my limitations are and
Mm-hmm.
trying to get as close as I can to those limitations and eventually push past them so I can raise that bar. As like I said before, it's hard to hold yourself accountable. When you're the only one, you have to be objective with yourself, and it's one of the hardest things in the world to do. Like, am I really giving as much as I can to this, or am I telling myself that I am because this is really hard?
It is, and it and that is such a great statement because you're just like you're always second guessing yourself. Now, is there a support system behind Mosh Pit? You know, maybe a parent or a sibling or even like a locker room. Your locker room brothers and sisters or what have you. Do you feel that you have a support system behind you? Because I feel, my man, without some of that lifting up or that pushing in the gym or what have you, these different things that take to be a wrestler, it's very difficult, even harder without a support system.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly, this it's kind of interesting that we were able to kind of like close this almost circle with what we were talking about in the beginning because my trainers are still there for me. They still support me. I still, you know, I have an open line of communication. So if I have a match that I need some notes on or something like that, it's a text message away. You know, I have Mike Antonucci and Jose Perez that back me up with my matches and help me figure out what I'm gonna do and how I can get better. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've got the locker room that like a lot of my friends in the locker room will be like, all right, well, what can we do to help each other? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and then on top of all that, my family is just like, I almost felt upset when I started getting into wrestling because my entire family was like, you know what, that makes sense for you that you would be a wrestler. I'm like, wow, thanks guys. Thanks for, you know, letting me know this earlier so I could have like been doing this my whole life. But it is. It's a massive support system. And because it's so massive, everybody just gives their little bit. And like a personal story, there's something that just like meant so much to me is my my aunt ended up sending me a letter out of the blue, and you know, we haven't seen a lot of my family for a while because pandemic stuff, and she lives out in Exeter, and we're separated by distance and stuff like that. But she ended up sending me a letter, and it was just like so nice. She was just, I love seeing all your wrestling stuff on Facebook, and I'm just like, I'm really proud of you and all this other stuff, and I was like, wow, that was, I didn't know I needed that today. And that like, that drove me and drove me and drove me until I like had an opportunity to create another one of those moments too. And I had my first run of t-shirts that I did, and I just happened to have an extra one. And I was like, I know who this needs to go to. It needs to go to Rob. You know, like I love stuff like that. And my mom coming down to try to see me on Thursday Night Throwdown, you know, like everybody's just like, they're interested and it's it's a low bar commitment to be supportive. You know what I mean? Just be stoked for me, and I'm gonna be so happy.
Yeah, I love that story of your aunt in that letter. That is absolutely beautiful. That's great, great stuff. Now, the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, I feel, and I'm not going to speak for you because that's I guess basically the question. I feel that this is something that you want to do for a living, as a livelihood. There is no shoot job because my job is wrestling. Is that your goal?
That's actually a goal that has become like a goal recently. You
Okay.
know, I always put myself into it like I throw myself at stuff. You know, like I have like I've had ADHD since I was like a young kid, and it's easy to hyperfixate on stuff, but like I threw myself into this, and I just loved every part of it. It was my hobby, it was my escape, it was my thing that kept me in check and kept me honest with myself, that kept me healthy, that kept me going to the gym. It was my whole world. And I always thought, well, okay, if I see an opportunity here, or if something comes up, then like, hey, I'll follow this to wherever it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But recently I've realized that, like, okay, first and foremost, if I'm going to make a run at this, I'm at the time in my life where I have the ability to do it. So there's no reason not to.
Okay.
Number two, I have a ton of ammunition. I have a ton of support. I have a great amount of people that have lent their name to me and said, I believe in this kid. And I've got support from the XWA. I've got support from Northeast Wrestling. Like, all of these things are just like starting to come together, and kind of like that slow burn with Waves and Curls. Like,
Mm-hmm.
now my fire is starting to ignite, and I'm starting to see, like, okay, this is almost 3 years worth of work that I've been laying the foundations for. And it's starting to pick up, and it's starting to look like, hey, maybe I've got a shot at this. And if I've got a shot at this, I'm giving it everything. This is a little boy's dream. This is like the 10-year-old dream that, like, kids say, oh, I want to be an astronaut, but like, I'm probably never going to be an astronaut. I want to be a wrestler, man. And there's a chance I could be a wrestler.
Yeah.
I'm not just doing this for me. I'm doing it for anybody who's ever said, man, I wish I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. So I'm gonna try to let everybody live vicariously through me while I get to live my dream,
Now, we've spoken about the gimmick, the name, if you will. Talk to us about the gear. Where does the gear from? Is there a maker you had? How did that all come about?
Oh, cool. So the gear that we did, it was a concept that I came up with because I'm a huge mark for Spawn. I have like a whole bunch of the original Spawn comics, so I wanted to make a set of gear that was based off of the Hellspawn outfit. So I sent a drawing to the guys at Strong Style Gear, and they helped me kind of bring it to life. And then as far as the jacket, there were some additions that I made. So all of the spikes and chains and everything on that layout, all that stuff I did myself and added a little bit of flair to it. And now I have like some other stuff that I've been kind of like cycling in and out because I've been trying to get like creative with what I'm wearing. Plus it's hot and long tights don't bode well for me over the summer, so I've been trying to do something with trunks. But
and XWA gets a bit stuffy.
And sticky. those walls sweat for some reason.
I don't want to know what's coming off of those walls.
I don't think so. I don't think anybody wants to know.
Now, some of the talent that I've spoken to, they have kind of, in their mind, I'm doing this gimmick right now. I'm going to run this until either I'm not feeling it or the crowd is not feeling it. When one of the other happens, then it's probably time for me to evolve as a wrestler. Have you thought about anything like that? Or has Moshpit just been plan A? And I'm running, man. Get out of my way because elbows are flying. I'm Moshpit. And that's the done deal right there.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, I kind of don't have a plan B. I try to be everything that I am turned up to 11. My life is crazy and chaotic, and it doesn't take a whole lot for me to be able to portray that and let people know that, because like that's my release. When I get to the ring and I get to do a little bit of slam dance before I hop in the ropes, that's me letting it all out and getting ready to blow off a whole bunch of frustration from the past week and just let my hair down. I don't know. I totally just trailed off there for a second.
We were just talking about evolution of character. If there was.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So I never really went plan B because this is kind of like who I am, and like maybe at some point I'll have to go by a different name because it would make more sense, and that's okay. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But for now, I just want to go out there and number one, show that I belong, show that I've got what it takes to hang with the big boys and, establish myself and let people figure out what to call me later. Remember my face, remember the ass kicking you get in the ring, and
just don't call me too buff. That's all I ask. Just don't call me too buff.
Or late for dinner.
Now, fans, I've talked to talent that have come fresh out of training and were able to connect with fans. I've talked to talent that has taken maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years to really connect with fans, feed off of that. I've also talked to talent that have been in the business for a good solid 10 years, and they're still almost feeling it to a degree. Do you hear us? Do you connect with us? How is that going on that piece of the puzzle?
I try to be as like there with the crowd as I can be, because without the crowd, there's no mosh pit. You need that. You need those people. You need the crowd. Like, I'm dependent on you. I can do a lot by myself. Trust me, I can do a lot by myself. But there's something quite missing if we don't have that large group of people. So like I try to say hi to people. I try to, give high fives where I can. And, there is one dude at the XWA. I don't know his name, but I plan on finding out who he is. And he's my one biggest heckler. But I always make a point to stop and wave at him, or at least acknowledge him specifically, because he's my biggest hater. And I just want him to know that I see him and that he doesn't bother me. And that if he does start to bother me, well, I know where he is.
And that's the thing about wrestling, though, especially over like we've spoken about evolution a couple times. Not only does a wrestler evolve, their gimmick, their character, their name, the way they look, and all of that stuff, even their physique and their mindset evolves over the course. But also, the fan has definitely evolved over the course of the past decade, even longer, 10, 15 years here. And not all the good guys get cheered. Not all the bad guys get booed. There's a lot of cheering for the bad guys. There's a lot of booing for the good guys. So you actually picking up on that, utilizing it. Hey, what's good, my man? Taking a quick stop over just to say F you in a very nice manner. I feel that's very cool right there.
Maybe just taking a little bit of time to engage with somebody one-on-one is enough to turn them around.
Yes.
Maybe they just need to be loved. They just need a little bit of attention. That's all. I understand. Trust me. Sometimes I'm needy. Like, if people don't pay attention to me after a while, I start to, wonder what's going on. If something's wrong with the world.
Oh man, I could talk to you forever. You are an absolute pleasure to talk to, my friend. This has been, and I'm talking, I didn't realize you were going to actually stick with me this long. We're just shy of an hour here. We're about 58 minutes long. But there's one topic that I have not talked about, and I know it's a very vital part of your life. Music. Please talk to us about music. What do you got going on? Are you a singer? Are you a triangle player? What do you do?
I'll play the hell out of the triangle. I'll have you know.
Yes.
I actually I play guitar and I do vocals.
Okay.
If you've ever wanted to hear anything that I've ever done, I was in a band a couple years ago called Awaken the Tide. We have a single up on YouTube that you could listen to called it's Martyrs Cannot Be Silenced. I'm sorry, I had to think about it for a second. And then I was also in another band called Scriptures that was local, and we had a song come out called Reclaim the Throne, and that band I did vocals for. As of now, I've been kind of behind the scenes a little bit more. My girlfriend, she produces electronic music, and I produce electronic music for a little while as well, but I've been trying to help foster her career because she's really good. So I've been helping her, teaching her how to mix and doing her mastering for her, helping kind of put together video packages and stuff like that. I had a release on Dead Mouse's label a couple of months ago. That was kind of the biggest thing that I'd done up until that point. But for now, the big thing that I do actually want to talk about with music is Moshpit original music.
Ooh.
That is something that is going to happen. It is in the works now, and I have about 4 to 5 songs lined up to have exclusive Moshpit music and content to be able to share with everybody. That's
Sweet.
written entirely by me and performed by me, and
And
collaborations with other artists as well.
and it's going to be called Mosh Pit. I mean, would it be called anything else but Mosh Pit? I mean, come on.
Why would I call it anything else?
Yes. Don't call it too buff. Please don't call it too buff. Now, the entrance music that you use, is there a title to it? Is it original score? What's going on with the music that you come out to at wrestling?
Okay, so I started out coming out to Killswitch Engage. It was more of a, just I want to come out to Killswitch Engage kind of thing. But I found the song that I'm using now is it's called "Oh My God" by Hell Yeah, and I chose it because like as soon as I heard it, I felt it. I was like, "Ooh, this song slaps harder than a wet fart." Like I need this in my life. So that's the one I've been using. And I always knew that it was going to be temporary because eventually I'm going to write my own entrance music.
Right.
I am working on that now.
Nice.
I'm just being very, very tedious about it. But what I will say is I have locked in a very special artist to collaborate with for that song.
Oh, right.
That would be the one, Brooke Reeves from the legendary Impending Doom.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's gonna that's gonna be fire. Can't wait to hear that. Now, how are you able to balance music, wrestling, shoot job, life shit, whatever else you got going on there, my friend? You did say your life is pretty chaotic. That's an awful lot of undertaking there, my friend.
It is. I put in the work. I did, well, a little backstory. I was in the Marines for 5 years, and then I went to college. And I went to college for audio. I ended up getting into live sound, and I started building a career out of doing live sound and lighting. That's kind of what I've been doing for like the past about 10 years or so. And I've been fortunate enough and to, have taken the time to, build a really great career for myself to where now I only have to work a couple nights a week to pay all my bills. And the job that I have now is extremely supportive of the things that I do. If I need time off, even though I only work 3 days a week, they're still very accommodating. As long as I request it in advance, I make good money. So like I have a ton of time on my hands, and I'm supported. And again, every reason to just chase it.
You seem to be in a very fine direction as a wrestling talent. Again, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, it's not half-assed. You seem like you're all in. You seem like you're dedicated. You have a great tutelage behind you. You have great people surrounding you on a regular basis. You're spreading your wings away from the home base, which is a very, very important factor, my friend. Not staying home and being comfortable because you find yourself in a niche, if you will. So spreading your wings and working different promotions. That leads me into where are we going to see Mosh Pit next? Because we've spoken of XWA, the Extreme Wrestling Alliance out in West Warwick, Rhode Island. I can never say that correctly. And Northeast Wrestling, they have their home shows out of Bethany, Connecticut, but I believe their actual home base is in New York State, if I'm not mistaken. So if you've been working with those two companies, where could we maybe expect to see Mosh Pit next? Because I love when the new talent starts going here and there, and I love seeing the posters too.
Oh, me too. I was very excited when I got to see the poster of me and Sumo. That was kind of shot on me a little bit. I didn't know it was going to happen, but I was really happy that it did. But as far as appearances go, the next 2 Thursday nights, you can see me at XWA's Thursday Night Throwdown in West Warwick. Looking at my schedule right now, we have June 27th at the Cadillac Ranch in Southington, Connecticut for Northeast Wrestling.
And it's going to be outside. It's their first show back with my man. That's a very, and I don't mean to interrupt you. That is an absolute perfect event to be jumping on for Northeast Wrestling because it's outside. It's the first live crowd back. And the fans, I follow all of their stuff, and the fans have been just, when is the next show? So I feel that one's going to be a banger.
I'm truly excited to be on that show. Like I said, it was a surprise, and I'm just going to try to make the most of it because it's just like I love the XWA. I love what we do on Thursday nights. Our pay-per-views are bar none. Like
Fire.
Bar none.
Fire.
Like, working with other people, working with new people, working a little bit farther away from home, and especially like the NEW crowd, they don't get as much saturation, so like they come out like in droves when there are shows. And the last time I saw the NEW crowd, I was behind the curtain. I was helping put up the ring, and this time I get to go back and I get to go through the curtain.
So
I'm ready. So there's that one, and then there's also XWA July 24th. I'm not sure the actual venue location yet because it hasn't been announced yet. But I will tell you that the Extreme Rumblelution will feature the Friendly Neighborhood Moshpit.
Yes, that XWA puts on some. Take the Throwdowns. Such an amazing time. I can never say enough about the Throwdowns. But then you get to these pay-per-views and the talent that they bring in and the cards that they build. Holy shit, man. And Resolution is obviously their big WrestleMania, if you will, of the year for those guys. The Rumble is always just amazing. They bring in those surprises, if you will. They never fail us as fans. Just amazing events. I think, I feel, my friend, you are in an absolute perfect, great spot right now. A great spot for your career. Again, all of the things that I mentioned before with the people and the company that you surround yourself with. I cannot wait to see what the future brings to Moshpit. And that's, again, I don't blow no smoke up anybody's ass. I truly cannot wait to see what happens, to see where you get to spread your wings, see the opponents, because, and I know you're a wrestling fan through and through because you spoke of it earlier. I know you must pop as yourself. Or I don't like to use the word mark. I think it's ridiculous. I think yourself, when you see some of these things, though, and I know you don't have to admit it, but when you see yourself going up against Mike Sumo at NEW, you gotta pop just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I'm not even gonna hide from that. I can't. Like, if you're gonna be real about it, wrestlers are the biggest wrestling nerds. We're, and I will never apologize for that. Absolutely ever. Seeing myself on a poster, just seeing those awesome promo photos that those promo photos were a surprise as well. I got to shoot with Disdain, who is an amazing photographer. I love Zeke. He's so nice. He did such a great job on those. I had never seen myself in a professional promo pic before. That I popped for that, and just knowing that, like, all right, NEW is coming back to fans. This is their return show, and I'm blessed with the opportunity to be able to go out there and have a few minutes to let those people know who I am and show Sumo that I deserve to be there. Show everybody that this is what I want.
Yes. That's what we like to hear, my friend. Yes. Mr. Pitt, Mr. Mosh Pitt, if you will. We have talked many a topic between wrestling and music and what you got going on, what's in the future. Is there anything that we didn't speak of that you would like to maybe bring to topic before we let you go?
Honestly, man, I have had such an awesome time talking with you. Like, this has been a great, like, wrestling conversation, man. And I live for this stuff. This is the best. I can't think of anything that we didn't cover because we just talked about so much. And I'm so grateful that you would have me on, man. This has been so fun.
I I'm so glad you said yes. And again, I pop like I am an 8-year-old, and I'll bring you back to 78. 8 years old, Bob Backlund going against Cowboy Bob Orton, my first live event. I still pop when you guys and girls give me a green light for an interview or give me a green light for a promo at an event while we're there live. I pop like that 8-year-old kid did, seeing Bob Backlund and Cowboy Bob Orton. So I thank you so much for your time and talking to us, being open and honest, sharing stories. And I just, again, I can't wait to see what the future brings because I think it's going to be a lot of good things with your attitude and yours. There's not, how do I say this? Not everybody has a fine attitude, my friend, and you have a fine attitude.
I appreciate that very much, man. Thank you.
Where do we find Mosh Pit? May it be the IG, the Pornhub, or where do we find Mr. Pitt?
Well, unfortunately, no OnlyFans. I kind of keep that stuff myself. But you can find me on Instagram. I do use my Instagram pretty frequently. It's Tales of the Mosh Pit. It's TAILZ of the Mosh Pit. And then my Twitter I use for very minimally, but I use it for both my music and my wrestling. And I think it's like Mosh Pit and Worship. But I use my Instagram primarily, and then if you search me on Facebook, you can find me there as well. And I've you've been one of the people kicking off the interactions on my page, so I thank you very, very much for helping the growth because my Facebook has been suffering, but it's been picking up quite a bit. So I appreciate you being there for the ride.
I see a new talent with a page. I latch onto that. I share it. Hit the old like, boys and girls. Hit the old like. We got to know our new talent. We got to see our new talent. And you guys and girls, I know you always thank me for doing, sharing this stuff and whatnot. You don't ever have to thank me. It's always my absolute pleasure, my absolute honor to do such because, again, as we, like you said, full circle almost, just the relationships and friendships I've made is just out of this freaking world. And I appreciate you guys and girls, and I'll never take any minute. I don't want to ever change a second of it that has ever occurred over the course of the last four or five-ish years, if you will, since I've been hitting the old indie scene. Now, before I do let you go, the music, because we want to be able to find the music. Where can we find the musical portion of your life, sir?
Okay, so I will be including that on my social media. I will be announcing more about that on my probably on my Instagram, but we will have like full-blown Spotify release. Okay. Anywhere that you can digitally stream music, you will be able to listen to Mosh Pit's music. So awesome. I will do that, and it'll likely be on YouTube as well.
Very cool. So much information. And I mean, I know an hour, where are we? Hour 13. Hour 13 is not a lot of time, but my goodness, did we get a ton of information learning about a fantastic new local talent out of the XWA, Extreme Wrestling Alliance. Look those guys up. Look up the other promotions we spoke of. Look up the talent that we spoke of. Just hit the old, get the old medias and look up the talent and be able to check this stuff out, because if you do know them, obviously you've already followed them. But if you don't know them, follow, support. That's what we do in the wrestling scene is we help each other out here. We lift and support. I don't care if you're a good guy or a bad guy. Too buff, I always lift that little son of a bitch up anyways. I put him over. If you didn't notice, I mentioned him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 8 different times today. It doesn't matter though. Good guy, bad guy. We like to lift our talent up. We like to lift our promotions up. And Mosh Pit, a fantastic, absolutely fantastic time you've spent with us, the fans, getting to know you. And I cannot appreciate it enough, sir. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me again, man. You've made a new friend in me. I hope to run into you in a show and hook up and grab a picture.
Oh, yes, I absolutely am down for that stuff. With all of that being said, and we're going to hopefully, maybe in another 6 months or so, we're going to reach out to Mosh Pit again and be like, Hey, my man, what's good? Maybe you could come back and tell us your progression. What's going on? Where have you been? Whose ass have you put in the pit? So yeah, maybe we can connect down the future.
I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Yes, yes. With all of that said, with all of the information and all of the fun we had today, this is Stir in the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Moshpit. I love that fucking name, Moshpit.